Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, the 14th of March, and I am coming to you live back on track with my normal schedule. Last week got me all discombobulated, but I did get a video out on Saturday. But let's dive into what's going on right now, because this has been a even more turbulent week than we've experienced in the markets in quite some time. Lots of concerns about a lot of things, and most importantly is uncertainty about what the heck is really going to happen going forward. So first and foremost, Trump's trade wars. We are really creating, oops, hold on, let's put this back on there. There you go. All right. So Trump's trade war troubles, and say that 5 times fast. Trump trade war troubles and how it's impacting mortgages. We are seeing huge amounts of volatility. We're seeing volatility in the stock market. We're seeing volatility in where the futures are looking for what the Fed is going to do. And that volatility is creating a lot of uncertainty. We saw interest rates drop quite a bit going into this week, and they've been climbing all week. So we've seen a lot of volatility. We saw inflation reports coming out this week. We've got the consumer sentiment report that came out today, and it's all pulling us in different directions. And so the first thing I want to tell you is that it is not really good news for the short term, because when everybody is uncertain, everybody pulls back. And that's what's happening right now. I had a buyer who called me the other night and said, hey, with everything that's going on with the trade wars and with the stock markets, I'm going to hold off and not move forward on selling my house and buying another one. That is the kind of thing that I'm hearing. I don't know that it's a good idea or a bad idea. The truth is, what's going to happen is going to happen. If you have money in the stock market and you're trying to use that money as your down payment, well, guess what? Your stocks are worth less now, and therefore it's not going to buy you as much down payment. You're going to have to get rid of more shares of your stock when the prices are lower. But the prices are still up compared to where they were 6 months ago. So you kind of got to think about it in the bigger context of things. The other bigger context you've got to look at is what is going on with the future of housing and the future of interest rates, and how is that going to play out? And so what we worry about, first of all, is what are people thinking? And one of the ways that we talk about what people are thinking is through what's called consumer sentiment. You, the consumer, the person buying goods and services, mortgages and homes and potato chips, you have your sentiment, your feelings about where things are going. Consumer sentiment today was released, and it was significantly lower, meaning consumers are getting more pessimistic, more concerned about the outlook of the economy. Consumers are getting more concerned about inflation going up, and that causes people to tighten up, to pull back. There's some weird leading indicators of the big R word, recession. And a lot of people are talking more about recession this week. And some of the leading indicators are buying habits or shopping habits. One example that I read in an article this morning on the Wall Street Journal was talking about liquor bottles and the fact that small bottles of liquor, the sales have skyrocketed. And the question is, what does that have to do with anything? It has to do with people being on a tighter budget and saying, hey, instead of buying a big bottle of whiskey, I'm going to buy a small bottle of whiskey that'll just last me for tonight, because tomorrow, I got to worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. And so that's an indicator that people are pulling back, that people are tightening. There's lots of little indicators around that in the economy. That is often a precursor to recession. Now, recession, everybody's memory says, oh my God, housing prices dropped during a recession. No, housing prices dropped during the recession that was caused by housing and mortgages. This recession is not, if there is one, is not being caused by housing and mortgages. During a recession, the Federal Reserve is seeing the fact that the economy is contracting, shrinking, and they want to spur the economy to grow. And the tool the Federal Reserve has to do that is interest rates. The Fed lowers interest rates when there is a recession. Okay, so that's good for mortgages. That's good for housing. The problem is, are we really headed into a recession? And the timing of things. We're in turbulent seas. And so we're going to have different things that are pulling us one direction or another. And that's causing one other indicator to look at is watching interest rates and looking at the application count. How many mortgage applications were taken that week? This week, applications are down because rates are up. And so you got last week, everybody's super happy. We got the lowest interest rates we've had in 6 months. And then this week, we have the highest interest rates we've had in 2 months. So there's a lot of back and forth, and nobody likes uncertainty, including people who are losing their jobs. So the the federal government has laid off a significant number of people. There's lots of volatility there. There was an article yesterday, there was a judgment from a judge saying that the federal government inappropriately fired people from certain departments, and they had to rehire those people. So now we've got kind of a, wait a second, are we losing a lot of people? Are we bringing some of them back? What's that going to mean to the other people that were laid off from the federal government in the last 2 months? Uncertainty. That's the chaos. The jobs decrease. The number of, last week I talked about this, 140,000 jobs were created, which was less than about the 160 that they had expected. So we're seeing fewer jobs created. Well, part of that's because it's a net number of how many jobs were added and how many jobs were lost. And so the jobs thing is also a huge amount of volatility. And now we add the inflation numbers. So on Wednesday, we got an inflation report, and it showed inflation was down. Woohoo! Good news. Inflation is dropping. But there are indicators in there that certain parts of the inflation mix products are going up. And so that's bad news for the future of inflation, which has the Fed saying, you know what, I don't know what I want to do. Because next week we've got the Fed meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. And they meet every 6 weeks. And so next week, the Fed is going to be talking about, hey, should we lower interest rates? Now, nobody expects the Fed to lower interest rates right now. But recently, the projection of the Fed's thinking down the road, the Fed saying, hey, what are we going to do in June or July? Well, the markets think the Fed is more likely to drop interest rates in June or July. The markets are now saying, we think maybe the Fed's going to drop rates by 1% this year. Well, remember, this is how the story goes. The mortgage market, the 10-year Treasury does not wait for the Fed to drop rates. They start dropping rates in anticipation of what the Fed's going to do. When enough people are convinced that that's what the Fed is going to do, rates fall ahead of what the Fed is going to do. So we've got some downward pressure on interest rates because of the expectation that the Fed is going to be forced to lower rates because of issues with the economy and the slowdown of the economy. And that's creating people who are looking for opportunities to strike right now. And there was a report I read recently that came that talked about institutional investors. For some reason, there we go. All right. So institutional investors are increasing. Oh, and then it went away. Institutional investors are increasing the number of homes that they are buying. Why? Because they've had money sitting on the sidelines waiting for buying opportunities. And in the middle of all of this chaos, the companies who are not emotional, that's the key. They're not emotional about their decisions. They are factual, logical, calculated. And a lot of them are saying now is the time to buy. And so you have these institutional investors that are buying more homes. Now, homes are still way more expensive than they were back in 2010, but nobody can get a time machine to go back to 2010. They have money sitting there right now ready to buy. They are buying. They are buying, and you are not because you are emotional. I get it. We are all emotional. But there's something to be said for listening to the people that are making decisions based on logic and saying, if they're making decisions based on logic, maybe my emotions are clouding my decision. And that essentially says to me, look, now is a good time to be looking to buy a home as long as you feel confident in your personal economy, in your ability to continue earning your income, that you don't have concerns about your job going away because you don't want to buy a house and then lose your job and not be able to make the payment 2 months later or 6 months later or a year later. So if you feel confident in your personal economy, the fact that the chaos is happening all around us may be a great buying opportunity. The same thing if you were looking to sell a home and upgrade to another home. This might be a perfect opportunity to do that before the market really lights on fire, because it's very hard to get a contingent offer approved once the market is on fire and you have a bunch of buyers. Why are the buyers going to come back? When rates fall. And there's a lot of arguments that I've just made about why I think rates are likely to fall in the coming months. Now, I'm not months. Could be 2 months, could be 12 months, could be 24. But there's a big argument for the fact that we are going to see interest rates falling. Trump himself, his advisors have said, you know what? There's going to be some pain. There's going to be, I think the Treasury Secretary said that, I don't know, maybe it was Treasury Secretary, said that the economy has to go through a detox period. Now, that's one way of putting it, but that's their view is, hey, there's going to be pain in the short term to get to what they picture as a better outlook on the other side. Shifting from an economy that is based on federal government spending to an economy based on private spending. That's what they're trying to do. Whether it'll work or not, whether you agree with the decision or not, the fact is that is the direction that they are trying to go. And what that is going to mean is volatility in the short term. Next week, we have more weekly jobs reports. We have the producer price index. That's another inflation report, a very, very important inflation report. And then we've got Powell and his friends who are going to be meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. This is going to be highly volatile. If you are buying a home right now and you are thinking, should I lock my rate today? Should I wait, John? What do these factors mean to rates? It means that every day it's going to be wild. There is no predicting whether it's going to be better on Wednesday or Thursday compared to Tuesday. Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, the Federal Reserve is going to have released their notes and their press release from their two-day meeting. The most important piece of that is what the dot plot says. The dot plot is the Federal Reserve's projection of where they see interest rates in the next 1 year, 2 years, and long term, where they see them setting interest rates. Well, we saw back in September, they had said, hey, we think rates are going to be really low. And then in their subsequent meetings in November and December and January, they kind of ticked that up a little bit more and said, yeah, we don't think we're going to drop them as much. So the question is, what's the Fed thinking right now? Is the Fed going to tell us, we still don't think rates are going to be that much lower in the next year or two? Or is the Fed going to reverse course a little bit and say, hey, with all these trade wars, with all of the concerns that that's bringing up about the economy and recession, we, the Fed, think we're probably going to have rates being lowered more over the next couple of years. If the Fed says in their dot plot that they expect rates to be lower than what they expected a month ago in January, 2 months ago in January, when they had their last meeting, then that's going to be good news for interest rates. So don't only wait for that, because there's a lot of other news that's happening right now that's conflicting with one another. And that happens during change. That happens, I think I used an example before, but I remember back in grade school, and we talked about the ships that used to travel around the Horn, Great Cape Horn. I don't know if I'm thinking about the tip of Africa or the tip of South America. Either way, both of those geographic regions have two oceans that are coming together, and you're changing from one ocean to another. Huge amount of volatility, waves crashing both directions, lots of ships that don't make it there. That's part of the reason why they built the Panama Canal, to make it a shorter route instead of having to go around the tip of South America, and a safer route. Well, guess what? We are dealing with a major storm. We're dealing with information that says rates in the economy are going one direction, other information that says rates in the economy are going another direction. They are crashing against each other. They're crashing against all of the ships that are traversing those waters right now. And so we have volatile times. So do not listen to me or anybody else and say, okay, I'm going to wait until Wednesday because I think the Fed's going to show a lower dot plot. They might, but there might be something else the Fed says. There might be the inflation report that comes out. There might be something about the jobs report that says a different story. Right now, in times of change, you get stories that you can say tell this story, and somebody else can give you stories that say that it tells that story, and you're both right. You're both right. You're looking at it from different perspectives or different biases. I try to be very unbiased, although I am biased to home ownership as a general statement. But the fact of the matter is, we're in the midst of chaos. And that isn't going to end anytime soon. But chaos is often the best opportunity because it makes everybody else paralyzed. And it puts you in a position where you can take advantage of everybody else's fear. So guys, that's about what I've got for you today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them into chat, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching recorded. Chat is a great way to communicate with me. If I am for sure interviewing for the opportunity to be your lender, I do get paid for mortgages. I don't get paid for doing YouTube videos. So if you want to connect with me, scan that QR code above. You will download my mobile app or go to the website listed above, and you can connect with me, schedule an appointment, or just call us. We would love to talk with you one-on-one and help guide you through your mortgage needs. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.